have a problem. And it's a zombie apocalypse kind of problem. We are the zombies. 80% of people, 80% of us, don't like our jobs. 87% of people aren't engaged at work, or even worse, they're actively disengaged. That means they've gotten to the point of whatever. Actively disengaged employees cost companies anywhere between $450 and $550 billion each year. Individually, our misery is costing us our health, our relationships, and our happiness. We're zombies, just going through the motions. I remember when I had my what am I doing moment. I was headed to China for the second time in as many weeks. It's 6:30 in the morning, and my husband and kids are standing in the driveway with me, waiting for my boss to pick me up to head to the airport. So the car pulls in, and my boss gets out, and she comes over to meet my kids for the first time. And I make the standard introduction, and my 7-year-old looks up at my boss with her big brown eyes and says, "So, you're the reason my mama's never home." After I picked my heart up out of my stomach, I thought about it. You know what? My boss wasn't the reason I was never home. I was the reason I was never home. I chose a job that demanded that of me, and I didn't want it anymore at that time in my life. I was miserable, and I was becoming more and more disengaged. I was going through my own career like this. So how are we going to stop the apocalypse? With Frientorship. Frientorship is a combination of friendship, mentorship, and leadership. And if we leverage these principles, we will make ourselves happier, we'll make our teams happier, and happiness breeds engagement, and engagement breeds success. It isn't the other way around. Let's break Frientorship down. Friendship. The Gallup organization polls employees routinely, and one of their questions is, do you have a best friend at work? Employees who have close friendships also have a higher view overall of company culture. What do you get with workplace friendships? You get a more creative environment, more teamwork and collaboration, shared knowledge and knowledge transfer. All of these things add up to greater job satisfaction and higher engagement. The ultimate question is, who's got your back? We love to build people up. And then we stand to the side and we watch them make mistakes, human mistakes that cost them their careers, like having one too many drinks at the company party, doing things we live to regret. You need someone to tell you when you're too hard on someone in a meeting, or to challenge you to look at something a little differently. That's what work friends do. And you have to be open to that feedback. As kids, our parents and teachers tell us, treat others the way you want to be treated. Forget it. You need to treat others the way they want to be treated, because we're all different, and their needs might not be the same as yours. When I was working at the Hershey Company, I had what I called my chocolate posse. My posse had my back. About 3 months into my job, I had to face the corporate board of directors for the first time to discuss a very sensitive issue. So I went to my posse and I said, guys, I just spent the last 2 hours with a very rumbly stomach, and I'm pretty sure that's how I'm going to spend every minute up until this meeting. Not unlike my preparation for today, I should add. My work friends were going to laugh at me for sure, but they were not going to use my vulnerability against me. We were brutally honest with each other, not telling each other what we wanted to hear, but telling each other what we needed to hear. So how do you build your posse? 1 cup of coffee at a time. It doesn't take a huge amount of time, and little moments add up. If you're working in an office building, you're walking by offices and cubicles every day. Stop and pay attention. We tend to put things on and around our workplaces that are meaningful and important to us. And if you work remotely, don't underestimate the value of a little chit-chat at the beginning of a telephone or video conference. The little connections will add up. Let's talk about the second concept, mentorship. It is my responsibility to know what I know and to know what I don't know and to find the people who can help me fill those gaps. We need to stop waiting for someone to do something for us, and we need to do it ourselves. Seek it out. People at all levels in an organization can be mentors. Organizational rank might not have anything to do with life experiences or strengths. So look vertically and horizontally. Look internally and externally. Not only does both being and having a mentor make us more engaged in our jobs, but research shows that people who are mentored earn more money, and business makes more money. Employee retention is higher, customer satisfaction is higher. There is zero downside to a great mentor relationship. Let's talk about the third principle, leadership. Leadership is not reserved for CEOs. Leadership is not reserved for the boss. We all are leaders on our career journeys. When I think about the characteristics of a great leader, I think about my dad. In the days and hours leading up to his death, the death he knew was coming, but didn't want, my dad wrote his own obituary. Having been born on August 25, 1935, I lived a personally fulfilling life until July 23, 2016. I was, however, reborn several times. First time, June 1963. Second time, October 1965. Third time, May 1970. Fourth time, October 1974. I will always be with my 4 daughters, their 3 husbands, whom I considered my sons, and my 5 grandchildren. The legacy I leave the living world is my 4 educated daughters. They are a credit to themselves, their families, their professions, and the communities where they reside and work. Peace and good health forever. Ooh, the obituary. The resume of your life. Our professional resumes help us get jobs, but our life resumes, they tell our story when we're done living it. Think about all the obituaries you've read. Have you ever come across an obituary written in first person and in present tense? That's how my father wrote his. He was focused on the future. He didn't write a single word about what he, Frank Marino, accomplished. He was focused on his legacy, his children, his team, if you will. What made him a great leader was not how much money he made in business or what he personally accomplished. What made him a great leader was how he trained and nurtured and developed his team to be able to rise up and lead our family when he stopped being our leader. That's leadership. And you do that through accountability and communication. A few months ago, I was going through my daughter Carissa's school papers, and I came across this math test. And I look at it, and I see something that vaguely resembles my husband's squiggly signature. So I showed it to him, and I said, "Hey, Steve, did you sign this test?" And he took a look at it, and he said, "Nope." And I said, "Okay, well, since she forged your signature, you're the one who has to talk to about it. I'm off the hook." A couple of hours later, I said, "Carissa, did Daddy talk to you about that math test?" And she said, "Oh, yes, Mama. He told me I committed a crime and I could go to jail, so I better not tell my teacher." Did I mention my husband's a lawyer? So, hold on. As parents, we're the leaders. Our children are our employees, and it's our job to teach them to be accountable. So I turned to Carissa and I said, You will go to your teacher, you will tell him what you did, and you will accept the consequences. A couple of days later, I just happened to run into her teacher, so I said, "Did Carissa talk to you about that math test?" And he started laughing, and he said, "Yep. She told me that she forgitated her dad's signature, and that her dad told her she could go to jail, so she shouldn't tell me, but her mom told her she had to be accountable for her choices, so she had to tell me." Accountability is a round-the-clock obligation. It starts in childhood. It never ends. And it isn't just for when we get caught making mistakes, and it isn't just for when there is a tangible consequence. Carissa wasn't going to jail, but she was going to learn how to have a difficult conversation and how awful it feels to tell someone you lied. Employees who carry their weight and behave responsibly lose respect for leaders who don't hold others to the same standards. And when they lose respect, they lose their will to put in the extra discretionary effort it takes to do the job really well. And the zombie starts to creep in. And they do nothing more than the minimum. And the minimum isn't good enough anymore. In order to hold yourself and others accountable, you have to have a high level of self-awareness. A few weeks ago, I was walking our dog with my older daughter, Morena. This preteen look, it resembles a disgruntled employee from time to time. And our dog is really strong. I mean, she basically walks me, if you want to know the truth. So Morena said, "Mama, when will I be able to walk Katie by myself?" And I said, "Well, honey, maybe in a couple of years when you're a little older and a little stronger." She's a little older, a little less strong. And then I could see the wheels turning. And she's thinking, and she says, "But by then, I'll be 14 or 15. And isn't that the time when I'll be so wrapped up in myself and hanging out with my friends that I'm not going to want to do things like hang out with you and walk the dog?" And I said, in pointing out the obvious, "Honey, if you know yourself and you want to avoid becoming that person, that kid, then it shouldn't be a problem. That's self-awareness in a preteen sort of way." Second characteristic of great leadership, communication. A great leader communicates goals. If you're aiming for nothing, that is exactly what you will hit every time. An expectation that isn't effectively communicated is nothing more than meaningless words, and it will result only in frustration for both you, the leader, and the people who are desperately trying to please you. Great communication is what transforms you from an authoritarian, a boss, into a leader. The single greatest communication failure? The annual performance review. Nothing should ever come as a surprise. I learned this principle as a little kid. My first performance review came in the form of a single question. Have you been naughty or nice? And the answer would determine whether Santa would bring me coal or presents. Can you imagine if parents didn't help coach and shape kids' behavior along the way? Yet that is exactly what happens every day in our workplaces as adults. The difference is it's about pay increases or bonuses or even job security instead of Christmas presents. So we combine the principles of friendship, mentorship, and leadership, and we have Frientorship. Sure, we can keep going the way we are, and our collective engagement and productivity will continue to plummet, and business will fail, and maybe there won't be a job for us to hate. Or we can leverage the principles of Frientorship, and we can take charge of our workplace and career happiness. And the result will be fully engaged individuals and fully engaged teams. And, like my dad, we'll be leaving in place people who are ready to lead when we're done leading. So join the Frientorship movement and start building your leadership legacy, one relationship at a time, focused on the future and the engaged people you someday will leave behind. Thank you. Thanks, Dad.